I've been thinking a lot about evil lately, and the reason for that is because honestly, I'm seeing a lot of it around me. And I can't help but to think of the famous quote attributed to Sir Edmund Burke, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Okay, so I'm thinking it's time for me to be doing something. And I think the first place to start is just understanding exactly what evil is. So what is evil? Well, I don't have this entirely figured out yet. May never completely figure it out. People have been asking this question for a really long time. But the best I could come up with is we've got two extremes. We've got good, we've got evil. Now think of it as a sliding scale in between the two. And most of us are on that scale somewhere. Okay, and I started out thinking, hey, wouldn't it be great if we just had a list and we could look at something, and if all the boxes are checked, then yep, that's evil, no doubt about it. Something any reasonable person could go through that list and objectively say, that's evil. All right, well, that fell apart really quick because evil is not an objective term. And if you think you're an atheist and you believe in good and evil, you're not an atheist. Atheists don't believe in good and evil because it's not an objective term. Right? It's a religious term. Okay, well, I went to the classic Christian definition of evil. Well, maybe the classic Jewish definition as well, but okay, classic Christian definition of evil is it is to be separate from God. Or evil is the absence of good. And God is the greatest good, so God and good are essentially the same thing. And okay, the problem is that I didn't really understand it, and it just didn't help me identify something definitively as evil, that definition. Well, that's when I started thinking of good on one extreme, or God, because he is the ultimate good, then evil. Okay, and then that sliding scale in between. And that seemed like that had potential. Okay, so that fits with the evil is to be, or is the absence of good. Okay, so if you're on the extreme, complete extreme evil, well, you're completely removed from good by that point, and vice versa. Okay, so that works with the classic definition. All right, and I don't know what evil is, but what is good? Maybe I could figure that out. All right, well, I think, I know this isn't complete, I know this is rough, but I think good is making sacrifices for others, for the benefit of others. That's the best I could come up with right now. And I know it's not, still missing a few things, but. Okay, so you help a little old lady cross the street. That's a good thing. Well, you're sacrificing your time to help her. And anything we do to help others, we're sacrificing our time, we're sacrificing our labor, our money, effort, something. Right, but we're doing it for others. That's a good thing. And then if, from the Christian standpoint, if we look at Jesus, he made the ultimate sacrifice. He sacrificed himself for all of us. He sacrificed himself for sinners. So not only did he sacrifice his life, which is the ultimate sacrifice, but he did it for people that hated him, which that's why he is the ultimate good. Okay, so that seems to work with that sliding scale thing and good and evil. All right, so if good is making sacrifices for others, the ultimate good is sacrificing your life for others, then what's the ultimate evil? Would be taking the life of others, and for no reason. Okay, that seems to make sense. Now, if we go back and look at horrible events in the 20th century, that most of us can agree, okay, that was evil. So the Nazi concentration camps. Right. They took the lives of other people just for their ideology. Okay, the communists. And most of us agree that's evil. And if you're not so sure about the communists in the 20th century being evil, I'm going to leave a link to a video below in the description. I want you to go watch that just so you can see one little snapshot of the special type of hell they created In this case, it was Russia, but any of the countries that were unfortunate enough to experience real communism, yeah, that was evil. Okay, so they took the lives of close to 100 million people, sometimes just to have fun on an afternoon. I mean, that's how messed up Stalin was. Yeah, let's get rid of a few million people here. Torture them while we're at it, just to make it interesting. Okay, that's what we're talking about there. All right, that would seem to be pure evil, the complete absence of good right there. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, now let's take that definition and see if we can't figure out some things with that. Keeping in mind that quote, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Okay, now let's look at the communist. Why is it that you end up with the evil dictator at the top every single time somebody tries communism? There's no good men. Remember the communists, they're atheists. They don't believe in good and evil. Well, just because they don't believe in something does not mean it doesn't exist. And this is something that is so tragic, it's almost funny. The communists don't believe in the very thing that drags them to hell every time somebody tries communism. I can't explain that, but okay, so not having good men is what allows evil to triumph. And that means you've got to have a society that's producing good men. Right now, Communist Manifesto, there's nothing in that about self-sacrifice and producing good men, so they're not going to have good men. They don't want good men. Good men to them are bad because they don't believe in good. That's a religious term. We can't have that. Religion's the opiate of the masses. That's not part of the revolutionary plan there. Okay, Western culture, though, we've had Christianity for 2,000 years, and that's what it teaches us, is to produce good men. Okay, now let's look at the structures in Western culture right now that are falling apart, the institutions. And let's start with the family. Okay, what does the family teach children? All right, well, that's where children first learn and see what self-sacrifice is. Married couple, being married, that's about making sacrifices. Okay, children see that, they live in that. Their parents make sacrifices for them. The ultimate sacrifice, how many parents would not make the ultimate sacrifice for their children? Okay, that's where children learn to be good at. That's where they learn the concept. And it's not, we don't say it. It's not taught. That's something that is lived. Okay, and then from there, okay, children learn about for their families, but how about for the community? How do we learn to make sacrifices for the community? That's where churches came in. That's what churches are all about. I didn't understand this at one time. I thought, well, okay, I don't get anything out of church. And then I started going to church and actually becoming a Christian, and that's when I finally realized church is not about me getting anything out of it. Church is about me giving and serving. Think about it. All the churches that are out there, here in America anyway, especially the independent ones, the church members built those churches. They stepped up and showed that responsibility. They built those churches. They maintained those churches. They make the sacrifices with their time, with their effort, with their labor, patience, money to maintain those churches and keep them going and to improve those churches for future generations. Okay, now think of all the empty churches you see now. Every time you see an empty church, an abandoned church, you're seeing a generation that didn't learn to make sacrifices for the community. Okay, and with the family, think of the divorces now. Okay, a marriage is about making sacrifices for a greater good. All right, what do kids learn when they see their parents divorce? Okay, we're on that scale, good over here, evil over here. We're sliding down that scale now when we quit learning how to make those sacrifices. All right, well, once we hit the middle of that scale and we no longer know how to make sacrifices, we're not even aware of making sacrifices, and that's when we're wide open for evil to triumph. Okay, now let's take this a step further. It isn't just about not learning to make those sacrifices, but what is modern culture teaching kids now? That it's all about them. That the world has to bend to their will. All right, that scale, how's that going to play out in the future? So with all that said, what are good men to do right now to fight the evil that we're seeing in the West? Be willing to make sacrifices. To make sacrifices, to actually do that. The Bible tells us, call out evil when we see it. Okay, right now in the U.S., all Western nations, how many powerful people, rich people, CEOs, leaders in industry, celebrities, athletes, how many are too afraid to call out the evil that they're seeing, too afraid of the ESG crowd? All right, anybody that's too afraid to call it out is not a good person. All right, and that's going back to that banality of evil. And it reminds me of a verse in Revelation. Jesus told John that he mentioned people being lukewarm. They're neither hot nor cold, that anyone that was lukewarm, he would spit them out. And I never understood that verse till now, but I think that's what it meant. It was the banality of evil. It was those people that they're neither good nor bad. They won't do anything and they'll go along with whatever. That's how evil triumphs on a scale of the Nazis and the communists. Okay, so we've got to make those sacrifices for others. That's how you fight this, and that's how you beat it. Okay, so that was a start. I sacrificed a little time and effort to make this video and time thinking about this stuff. And it's time well spent. I understand so much more now about good and evil than I did. Yeah, it's time well spent. And hey, you sacrificed time listening to me babble on about this stuff out here in the shop. Progress. Now, how do we get the rest of Western civilization to realize the necessities of making sacrifices for others? That's the challenge we got ahead of us right now. All right? And the enemy, evil, that we're to call out right now, is anything that would discourage people from sacrificing for others. All right, so look at all the things right now that are trying to break up the family, breaking up marriages, trying to destroy the churches. Anything that's encouraging people to just be selfish. Yeah, that's the enemy. That's what we got to call out, and we got our work cut out for us. Okay. All right. One last thing: channel business. I want to change the name of the channel to something I think would be more fitting. I just threw this name out here, Living Simple with Tom. Just a channel that it needed a name. Hey, I'm thinking A Good Life. I think that'd be a fitting name for this channel. Any of you got any recommendations? I'd be curious to hear it. God bless and have a great day.